please keep people that are hurting and going through difficult situations in their lives in your prayers. It's just really, really sad. And like I said, we really need to remember these people, that we just sometimes get caught up in the rush of everything going on and we don't think of that. And thus as to why I'm reminding you right now in this video. I also want those of you who have been giving to the ministry to know that I have been using some of the gifts I have received to bless these people who are genuinely in a crisis. So your gifts are blessing those who are in a crisis and just helping them and relieving them of some of their stress. And I just want you to know that. So God bless you for your gifts. And I understand not everybody's been able to give, and that's okay. I do appreciate your prayers that you offer up for this ministry, for my family, for me, and for other people. So God bless you. If you're able to give to the ministry, you can do so via PayPal. The link is below the video. If you don't use PayPal or don't feel comfortable doing it that way, I do have a P.O. box. You can send a check or money order. That information is also posted below this video. And again, those of you who have been able to give, I just want to thank you. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much for your gifts. It is very precious and awesome that you've been able to do that. And I do pray for all of you. I pray for everybody, but I pray over the gifts and that God blesses you tenfold and then some in return for being so generous and so kind. Thank you for that. This is Lynn Liaz, and I have with me today Bob Kudla with Trade Genius. And the federal government has made a decision. The end game has begun. Now, Bob has been warning about this for years, and it's already started. And I'm going to let Bob explain this to all of you. It's very, very interesting. Bob, thank you so much for joining me today. It's a pleasure to have you.
Oh, hey, thanks, Lynn. Good to be here. Yeah, so, in 1st of November, actually really started in September of last year, somebody made a decision to start raising the rates of interest on the 10-year bond. And the reason why that's an important bond to keep a note of is a lot of the variable loans and mortgages and credit cards are based off of that. And so what they did was they went ahead and they ran it from, pretty close to 2% up to 3%. It doesn't sound much, but that is a 50% increase in the interest expense that people and governments have to pay out of budgets that they weren't expecting. And then in November, the dollar started to fall. And it started falling against just a couple of the currencies in Asia. And then in December, it started to fall hard against even Europe. And we've been in a dollar free fall since. And then, as you know, just, I guess, it's almost 2 weeks now, we had the big blow up in the stock market. And we lost 10% basically in 4 days. And it's primarily around interest rates starting to climb up out of the hole. And the reason why the stock market blew up is, I know they're blaming it on this volatility thing that's been going around. It's because the Federal Reserve did not raise the short-term interest rates on their meeting. But the 10-year rate is continuing to climb. And what that means is that what they call real inflation is starting to take hold. And this is the insidious type of inflation, the one that's really looks more like a tax to people than an inflation where everything kind of prices all rise together. And it's starting to affect things. I mean, the price of oil has gone up 50% in the last year. Every base commodity, lumber, steel, copper, nickel, have all risen the same levels. And then starting in December, I don't know if you're following the news, but In Cape Town, South Africa, they're almost completely out of water. Their reservoir has been drained over the last 2 years. And they don't have mountains like we do in California, where you get out in the wintertime, you can catch snow and hold it, and then fill your reservoirs. They have to rely on runoff. So we've now all the Mediterranean countries. If you just close your eyes and think of all the countries around the world that are considered to have a Mediterranean climate, are in severe drought. And when those countries go into drought, is usually what follows is shortfalls in agricultural products. And so now we have, I live out here in California. We've had one rainstorm in the last 340 days. I think we're gonna get another one this weekend. I mean, we're bone dry out here. I mean, and it extends all the way into Texas, and it extends into Kansas, where the winter wheat is basically has dried up. And in South America, they're supposed to be harvesting now. One half of South America has so much water they can't get the crops out of the fields. The other half of South America is so dry that their crops are dying. And that's happening in South Africa, and it's happening in parts of Australia. And as we roll into our summer, we'll get the follow-on effect. Last time this happened, Lynn, the price of food at the agricultural level doubled. And companies now can't pass on the cost. So you're going to start seeing a lot of what they call pass-through costs. And then that means that people can't afford it, so sales drop. Well, last Friday, we got our first taste of that through the reports that retail sales around the country, that includes people buying gasoline, fell 2%. At the same time, we've had the highest inflation we've had in the last 10 years. And today and yesterday, we got what's called the prices paid reports and producer pricing, which is highest has been in 10 years. So it's a tsunami coming through, and it's going to affect the poor. And and I kind of equate it to as you and I talk about Bible prophecy all the time, is that I kind of call this the Revelation 6:6 trade, and where that the angel is being instructed to basically create an environment where you're basically living your whole paycheck just to pay for food. But they use a riddle where and I'll read it to you and I'll explain the riddle. It says here, then I heard what sounded like a voice from among the four living creatures saying, 2 pounds of wheat for a day's wage, 6 pounds of barley for a day's wage, and do not damage the oil and the wine. And essentially what that's saying is that's how much it takes for you to live. Barley's cheaper than wheat, and so you get more of it, but it's less nutritious. But the oil and wine is barley and wheat were poor people's food. Oil and wine are rich people's food. And what it's essentially saying is that the poor are going to suffer immeasurably. Now you have prices going up because of agricultural decline. At the same time, we're killing our dollar. And for whatever reason, I'm not sure where it's coming from. Is it the U.S. is President Trump playing a negotiating tactic with the Chinese and the Asians, or is there truly a rejection of the dollar reserve status around the world, which has major implications for us and for others? But the last time this happened, Lynn, was in 2011, and what resulted from that was the Arab Spring. And because I think there's 19 countries around the world that directly peg their currency to our dollar. So as our dollar is falling, it's becoming increasingly impossible for them to import food. It doesn't bother us as much in the United States because we can essentially feed ourselves. But there's countries around the world that literally people go into starvation mode. And then there's a whole plethora of countries that are fighting our currency by trying to even be cheaper than us. And those are the Asians, the Asian tiger countries. And so and most of those countries can't feed themselves either. So we're really getting to a position where things are going to get really, really intense. And so I just thought I would share that with you because I think this benign environment that we've lived in, and this benign environment they created, in my view, they created it for the the coronation of President Hillary Clinton. And now that that's off the table and Janet Yellen left the Fed, is that all bets are off. And I think we're going to get into some really stormy seasons here. And that first 10% drop is just the beginning. So, obviously what we do at Trade Genius is we follow these things, and we have two mindsets. How do you survive it? And then how do you thrive from it? And so we've been watching this very, very closely.
Yeah, I know you've been warning about these things ever since you and I have been talking. And I think we started talking back in early 2016, I believe it was. And you've been
Yeah.
warning of these things, and they're happening. So I appreciate you sharing all of that information with my listeners. So, Bob, now that you've shared this with them, and you are a Christian and you're very interested in Bible prophecy, and that's one of the reasons that I have you as my sponsor. That's very important to me. I think a Christian channel like mine should have Christian sponsors. So, anyhow, that being said, why don't you go ahead and tell the listeners how you can help them? And not only that, tell them about this awesome special that you have going on right now. That's probably the best special since I've known you that you've ever had.
Yeah, and it's special just for your listeners. So as most of you know that have been listening for a while, is that we offer trading software, trading signals like buy sell signals, and we have trading rooms to help people trade just the stock market, but also more importantly in the cryptocurrency or the digital currency space. And those things, by the way, as a quick aside, gold and silver and the cryptocurrencies sidestepped the market correction. In fact, they've gone up. So they're safe havens because they're really against the banking system. So that's something to keep note of. But if you go to TradeGeniusAcademy.com, we have our normal offerings on that page, and then we have our retail price, and we have specials running, kind of all the time, retail versus the promotional price. But for your listeners, but only for a few of them who act, is that between now and the end of the month, the first 15 listeners from this broadcast that wants to join the Trade Genius Academy in any of those offerings that we have, they can use the promo code LIAZ and get an additional 50% off the price that's showing as best price. And so we're doing very well, and we're not offering this as a blanket offer anymore, and we're only really focusing on people who support us, and we'll continue to grow because we're really helping people make money nearly every day in the market. So I just wanted to pass it on to you, Lynn, as a thank you, and for your audience, that those who want to take advantage of it, it's an incredible deal, and you'll never see those prices again. We're adding more capability next month, and our prices are going to continue to rise as we add more capabilities. So I would encourage you to take advantage of it because it's probably one of the best prices out there in the market.
Well, thank you so much for that, Bob. And the link will be posted below this video in the video description. It will appear on screen as well. However, when it appears on screen, it is not hyperlinked, but you can at least see it. And I will be posting it in the comments along with the code LIAZ. And I will pin that to the top of the comments so it's easy to find. Nobody has to dig through the comments to find it. So, Bob, I really appreciate your sharing this with my listeners and offering this as a special to them. That's awesome. And I know you have quite a few people from my channel who have signed up with you and are doing great and making a lot of money. And, that's just great because there's so many people hurting financially and struggling. And so it's always great to have an outlet in which people can benefit so they can support their families and do things that they want to do.
No, I agree, and I think it's going to take vigilance from this point forward here. The easy money, as they say, has been made, and now you need a coach, you need a mentor, you need a community to help you guide you through what's coming next. And I think it's going to surprise a lot of people, and hopefully it won't surprise any of your listeners because I'm yelling from the mountaintop here.
Well, thank you so much. And do you have any final thoughts or words you'd like to share with everyone before we close here?
No, I think we covered it, Lynn. I just think that it's always good to be in a group here that we all kind of have are like-minded, and I just ask you guys to pray for me, pray for Lynn, and just thank you for your support, and I just want to thank you for listening.
Well, thank you. And yes, thank you for the mentioning to pray for all of us. And I appreciate that. Everyone listening out there, let's all bind together in prayer for everyone, and for Bob, and for Trade Genius, and just for everybody. It's a really hard time right now for a lot of people, and they're being hit with so many spiritual attacks. It is not funny. I am having more and more people write to me going through the most hellish situations of their lives. I know I recently have been going through some things, but you know what? The Lord is coming through for me, and things are looking up and getting so much better. I'm so thankful for God. God never turns his back on us. Sometimes we walk away from him, but he does not leave us. So thank you again, Bob, and God bless you. And I just appreciate you taking the time out to be my sponsor and to come on and talk with all of my listeners like you do. I appreciate it.
No, thank you very much, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right. God bless you.